Saturday the 7th of January 1995. Waking up, I just can't get over the space on the Amtrak train. It is truly marvellous, and the unfolding leg rest as well. Very spoilt. You don't get this on British Rail. Mind you, the journey's so long you do need some comfort. My train ride began in Miami at 12:30 p.m. and will finish today at 10:45 a.m. and that even includes putting my watch back an hour. As the train pulls in towards New Orleans, it passes an immense cemetery. A fellow traveller tells me that because of New Orleans' high water table, bodies are placed in tombs rather than below ground, because otherwise they can have a tendency to rise to the surface. The train eventually emerges out onto a wide street in New Orleans. Leaving the station, I turned the map round and around and started walking down the road, then along another road, find my bearings and quickly worked out the most direct route to the youth hostel. Soon, a man with a few unruly brown teeth and a can in a brown paper bag approached me. "Where are you going?" he called. "The youth hostel," I said. "What?" he said. "The youth hostel." "The what?" I repeated myself several times, pointing at the map. "You don't want to be here," he said. "It's a very high crime rate. Even in daylight, you shouldn't be walking here. Go down to the main street to Jackson Avenue. Walk along and then pick up your road from there. It will be safer." I thanked him for the advice and followed his suggestion. After checking into the youth hostel and leaving my heavy rucksack behind, the French Quarter was my destination. Instantly recognisable and unique, familiar through films full of jazz musicians playing in bars and beneath the streets of balconies of ornate ironwork. Plants and masses of coloured beads hanging over the balconies, representing years of Mardi Gras. T-shirts, alligator heads, and souvenir voodoo dolls. The sun was shining and the atmosphere was lovely. Feeling safer and inspired, drawing whilst listening to live jazz music was the perfect combination. There were some brilliant characters, especially Grandpa Elliot, hollering and playing blues on his harmonica. And after many hours drawing and soaking up the atmosphere, I took a tram to as near to the hostel as possible, walking quickly past dark figures on street corners. Sunday the 8th of January. I was up by 7:45 as some loud birds were squawking outside the window. It was a sunny day and I immediately felt enthusiastic to walk down to the French Quarter, where it was pretty and I felt comfortable. All of last night's carefree drinking and festivity were apparent as cups, bottles and general discarded rubbish were being swept up and the pavements hosed down for a new day of merrymaking. The market was set up and I was in absolute bliss, sorting through a box of Mardi Gras doubloons, shining designs from previous year Mardi Gras celebrations, tossed out from carnival floats and bearing the themes of crews from years gone by. There were 10 cents each, a bargain for these treasures, and I rummaged deep, picking out some beautiful designs to keep as souvenirs. Today, I discovered the concept of the all-you-can-eat salad bar. The host of this ritual was Shoney's, and the waiter was happy to tell me his name was Lewis. At the beginning, this was a great deal of fun, eating and returning to my seat to find that Lewis had replaced my drink with yet another free refill. The concept of free refills was also very new to me, and I ate, and Lewis would appear again and say, "Would you like another Sprite, sir? And feel free to visit the salad bar." At the end, after I'd left, my stomach suddenly dawned on me, and I realised what I'd done. I'd clearly eaten and drunk rather too much, and it was a very bad time to realise that I didn't know where the nearest public convenience was, and so began a desperate mission to find the toilet. It was a steep learning experience, and not one I planned to repeat. Later on I was walking past the bustling bars of Bourbon Street, past Pat O'Brien's home of the famous Hurricanes. I'd been told that when in New Orleans, the place one had to visit was Preservation Hall. It was a jazz club on St. Peter's Street. It didn't start until later on, but I was advised to queue early to avoid disappointment. I waited patiently as the first in line, which rapidly grew. It had this shabby appearance, but a sort of beautiful decay. I looked through the ironwork gateway. 2 cats were on the other side, so I talked to them. And then a couple from Chicago, who were in the line behind me, said that they came every year for Carnival. They told me they always come early to Preservation Hall, so I had made the right decision to queue early. "If you're listening to jazz, it's nice to be comfortable," she said. "And if you can get a seat at all, it's a bonus." He said most people end up standing up, and after a long time we were let in. It was $3 entry, and we got seats right at the front. As we waited, looking around at the old paintings, I imagine they're the images of jazz players of old on these worn walls. There were old chairs, bare floorboards. It certainly had atmosphere. After some time the musicians appeared, looking as old and worn as the hall, entering slowly with walking sticks and such. But when they began to play, it was so young and fresh and full of joy, I couldn't help but tap my feet and drew in time to the upbeat tunes. I loved the music of Preservation Hall and left in a euphoria, smiling all the way back to the tram stop. Late at night, some busking musicians were out sitting in the doorway of a chemist drugstore, a keyboard and a sax player. A strange dark melody crept across the street, soft and penetrating, the music evocative in the night. As more people gathered at the tram stop, some girls started to tell stories of indiscriminate drive-by shootings. Perhaps they were just trying to put the wind up tourists, but yes, it certainly worked. As I waited on that dark corner for a tram. The difference with public transport here is that you drop your money into a slot, and the tram driver pointed out I put too much in. I looked to try and reclaim my overpayment. "Once it's in, there's no getting it out," she said. Monday the 9th of January. I had lunch today in Louis Armstrong Park. I saw it on the map and thought it would be nice to have a look and pay respects to the great master of jazz. When I reached the entrance, it occurred to me that I'd seen this gateway lit up at night as I'd looked north from the French Quarter. When I reached it, it was very run down. Louis Armstrong's statue was covered in bird droppings, and it did look more inviting at night in the sense that it made me want to visit during the day. However, I'd set my sights on eating lunch in the park, and I had taken the time to walk up there and wasn't going to let some bird poop put me off. But there was no denying it was a sad, God-forsaken place, and there was nobody around, and strangely I couldn't hear any birds singing. So well, I ate my lunch, and after I left, it was only later I read the paragraph in the New Orleans guidebook. "Never enter this park alone, unaccompanied by a tour group, even in daylight." I suddenly felt this sort of sick kind of feeling, but thankful that I'd survived having lunch in the park.